Former President Donald Trump set to appear before a judge this afternoon in D.C. as he will be indicted on 4 federal charges in Special Counsel Jack Smith's 2020 election interference probe. But is this the most important issue to voters, and how does it weigh on their minds? Joining us right now is our voter panel. We've got Air Force veteran and former Democrat and now Republican voter Lydia Dominguez, right up there, joining us from Las Vegas. We've got retired U.S. Navy leading petty officer and Republican voter Moses Sanchez. He's down below. And independent voter Bernadette Wright. Good morning to you, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lydia, you're out in Vegas. So let's talk a little bit about this new case. The latest indictments are on election interference. Since you are in Vegas, what are the odds that he winds up guilty?
Oh, man. I usually don't gamble, but, I don't believe he's going to end up guilty. It just seems like an ex-boyfriend seeking revenge in court and just slamming their spouse in just all these different charges. And it's just overwhelming. I'm over it. They just need to move on. They're not getting their way with the Hunter Biden case. They just need to move on from Trump and stop attacking him. This is just, I'm tired of it. We've had 8 years of this, and we need to move on from it.
Moses, do you see it as an ex-boyfriend situation?
I don't know what an ex-boyfriend situation is for me, but honestly, I think most people aren't paying attention to the specifics of the various indictments. I think the average American couldn't tell you the difference between the third indictment, the second indictment. Which indictment is this? I think a lot of people are just checked out. Clearly, he's calcified his support during this time and during this indictment, and a lot of voters feel like he's being attacked by the mainstream media, and he's being victimized like a lot of voters have in the past. So I don't see it like an old boyfriend.
Okay. And I get exactly, Lydia, what you were trying to say. It's not that big a deal. But Bernadette, ultimately, because of the situation, because Donald Trump faces so much legal peril right now, we're talking about indictments, and we're not talking about inflation or the cost of groceries or the cost of gas or anything like that.
Right. That's a problem because the man has become bigger than the mission. I agree with both of the previous speakers about the fact that the timing of this, I think, is pretty strange. It's taking over all of the election news when it comes to what are the real issues that we're facing. He has gotten so big that it's gotten out of control. And the previous person who spoke is correct. People are not paying attention to the indictment like they should be, because if they were reading the indictment, they might have some legitimate concerns and realize that all of this stuff is becoming a distraction, and we need to pay attention to what's happening in America.
Yeah. Because you guys were asking about how many charges it is. Right here, the arraignment is at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Currently, Donald Trump faces 78 felony charges, 3 indictments in New York, Florida, and D.C. Lydia, I know how you depicted what's going on today. Which of the charges against the former president do you feel is the most significant?
The current ones, it's telling the timing of when they are pursuing these charges. They didn't pursue them in 2021 or 2022, and now they're pursuing them when they don't get their way. Trump has become the poster child of why people, good men and women, don't want to join politics. This is dirty. The media is dirty, and even your political opponents will go after you. And this is why people don't want to get involved.
Yeah. Moses, let me ask you this. Of course, as Jack Smith even said each time he had a little press conference, he said, there's a presumption of innocence for the former president. He's innocent until proven otherwise. But how would a guilty verdict impact your vote? I know you're a Republican.
I think it's still too soon. I think it's way too soon. We have 6 months before the actual presidential primary here. And we have a solid field of diverse candidates, which is great. Again, I think a lot of voters are just checked out when it comes to the legal matters of the president. I think we're too busy worried about putting food on the table, worried about inflation, worried about the economy, worried about issues of faith and where our country's headed, in the direction that we're headed right now. I think that's what's important to voters, not which which indictment are we on today?
You need a roadmap to figure out which indictment we're on because there are so many of them. Moses, you make a good point. Bernadette, I know you're sitting there in Georgia this morning, Fayetteville, beautiful town. You're an independent.
Yes.
Are you excited about the potential rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Because we saw this movie once before.
No, I'm not. I don't think the sequel is necessary in this particular case. I think we're ready for something fresh. I think we're ready for people who are not going to continue to divide the country. I think we're ready for balance. I think we're ready for unity. I think we're ready for people who claim to be Christians to actually show the love of Christ. I just think we're ready for something new and something real. So we don't want to see that movie anymore.
Bernadette, real quick, who would your dream ticket be?
I don't have a dream ticket yet. My dream ticket would be someone that we don't know, someone who hasn't been involved in a bunch of chaos, someone who actually does what they say they're going to do.
How are we going to find somebody who's not involved in chaos? That's a bit problem. Lydia, Moses, Bernadette, we thank you very much for joining us today. Great perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
For having us.
You bet. I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.